Hey guys, hope you and your families are doing well. Jack Corsellis here. Thank you very much for the positive feedback from the last video like this, which is about stocks on the IBD 50 list that I think are interesting, potentially forming basis. So I'm going to film a video like this once weekly on either a Saturday or a Sunday, put it out there. So it's going to be stocks in the IBD 50 list that I think are displaying a lot of relative strength and or building a constructive base. Now, if you want to know more specifically how I'm targeting a setup, if you search the channel for perfect breakout setups or VCPs or deliberate practice, something like that, then you'll find plenty of free content for specifically what it is I'm looking for. I like to look for extreme contractions in price, volume drive, and a trigger bar, preferably setting up on one or more key moving averages. So there's going to be around about 16, 17 stocks. I will list those all down below for you so you can see the order we're going to be going through. If there's any stocks that you think are interesting, please do comment them down below. Going to be showing you all of these stocks on the MarketSmith chart. They're today's video sponsor. There's a discounted trial available if you're interested in that in the comments below. So let's jump on into it. So CRK is going to be the first one. So oil and gas stocks are difficult to trade at the best of times. So what I like to do is more so try and dial into the oil and gas stocks which can make cleaner moves. We saw a big kind of shakeout on the XLE. It was a gap down sell off type bar, bearish synchronicity I call that closed below the 10 EMA and then started reversing higher. Now what I would say with kind of commodity stocks in general is the dollar last week was breaking down. If you take a look at a chart of a DXY, breaking down bearish synchronicity on a monthly basis as well, touching the top of a significant trend channel there. On the weekly chart you can see the breakdown coming. So a breakdown in the dollar I think would be very bullish for commodities, where just before we get into it, where I'm seeing a lot of the strength is commodities, solar related stocks, clean alternative energy stocks included in that, healthcare stocks, biotech stocks, and also some semiconductor stocks, as you'll see in a little bit. So CRK, we can see that it's building higher lows. It's got some kind of VCP type action on, consolidating around the 1021 and 50 SMA. Now it's still a little bit choppy in here, a little bit volatile. You can see it tried to go, pull back down, shake out below the 50. Now trying to recover. So I'm just waiting on this one to tighten up. It does have a history compared to other oil and gas stocks of being able to trend fairly well from prior breakouts. So see if that one can set up. But oil and gas stocks difficult to trade at the best of times. SMCI. Now these are the type of stocks that I really want to be looking for. A stock that you've probably never heard of, but yet is just powering high here. Positive reaction to the earnings coming through, which you've got 3 quarters of triple digit earnings, sales accelerating, after tax margins accelerating, so hitting on a lot of the cylinders. You can see these positive reactions coming through, all of these gap ups, nice to see. Now clearly on a short term basis this stock is extended, isn't it? It's run from $50 to about just over $80 there, so just watching and waiting for it to pull back in a little bit, consolidate, go sideways, flag type action, and at least let the 10 EMA catch up, which is that pink line. Let's go into the next one. This is a healthcare related stock. So this is MedPace. Now what I like about this one is positive reaction to the earnings. So you see this positive reaction to the earnings in terms of the volume, stock gaps up nicely. Now what I'm watching and waiting for is the stock to just drift sideways a little bit more, consolidate, maybe a low pivot forms around the 220 area. Still a little bit volatile for me. Volume is beginning to come down, but it just needs to tighten up. That one, another healthcare stock, is Harmony Biosciences. So potential cup and handle type action forming on this one. Nice high RS of 97. So just want to see this handle develop, maybe a pivot point set around kind of $60 and wait and watch on that trigger bar. Higher quality fund took a position in the most recent quarter. Let's go on to the next one. FLNG. So this is an oil and gas related stock, so starting to build these higher lows here. Maybe you could backdate this as well and look at this as one big kind of cup and handle VCP type pattern forming. It's an oil and gas stock on my radar. It's not my favorite. It's kind of jumping up all over the place. Again, it's one of these that it's a little bit difficult. Maybe if it sets up perfectly, but I think there's probably better ones, and I probably shouldn't include that one in the video, to be honest with you. Enphase Energy. So I think solar is going to be very interesting. I think we're going to see the biggest disruption we have ever seen to the energy market in 100 years, if not ever, over the next 5 years, 10 years. Highly recommend you to research some of Tony Seber's work on clean disruption for energy. I think solar stocks are gonna provide some very big winners in the next 5 years, 10 years. They're certainly from a technical perspective showing a lot of relative strength. If you think about the likes of an Enphase Energy, let's just jump this onto the weekly chart. Enphase Energy, and again, consider the context here of what the likes of the triple Qs has been doing for the last 18 months, especially kind of growth orientated areas. You think ARC, you think FFTY as well. So Enphase Energy potentially building a very big base here. RS lines are great versus the market, versus the industry group. Triple digit earnings, high sales, very good estimates, high quality growth funds in there. Likes of Enphase Energy look very interesting to me. I'm still in for solar at the time of filming this, so it's potential cup and handle type pattern. Maybe a pivot point forms around $300. The stock is still pretty choppy here, so it just needs to quiet down. Do like the prior to reactions to the earnings. We've seen gap ups there. Both of those have been triple digits. Good volume coming through. Fidelity increasing a position in the last 2 quarters. Big old boys in there. So this one's going to be interesting. I think solar stocks are. I think solar stocks are worth watching. TAN as well. If you shall I just I'm going off topic here, aren't I? But take a look at TAN here. Let's go on to the weekly chart of TAN. I think it looks interesting. So it has a history of being able to run pretty hard here, starting to build these high lows, RS lines turning up, and you potentially have a big break of this downwards trend line potentially coming soon. So I think the sector ETF being TAN, I think looks very interesting. But let's get back on topic with a retail restaurant. This is Wing. So what I'm liking here is clearly the positive reactions coming through, good volume coming through, earnings are out the way. Now, what is interesting is you've got 3 high quality growth funds that have increased their position in the most recent quarters, and you've got 3 that have decreased their position in the most recent quarters, albeit marginally. Two of those high quality funds that have increased their position have established a position in Q3 of 2022, so initiated a position. Now, clearly extended on a short-term basis, it didn't base out here long enough for me, so it just needs to go sideways, allow that 10 EMA to catch up, play a bit of catch up, then that's where I'll be looking to potentially target something. So that's Wing. Let's go into SQM. So I think commodity stocks are looking fairly darn strong. In particular, lithium. There's obviously a very big demand for lithium. If you think about EV, I think EV sales are growing at 100% year over year here in the UK. So if you just think about kind of the demand and growing demand for lithium over the next 5 years, decade, however long, I think there's going to be some big winners in this area. SQM looks very strong, potentially building this nice big base in here. Now clearly on a short-term basis, it's run up pretty quickly here, hasn't it? So I'm not targeting an entry here. It just needs to consolidate, get nice and tight, as you can see it did previously in here, to some extent did in here as well. So we'd just like to see it preferably kind of pull back down here a little bit, something like that, get all boring, get all quiet, volume dry up, and then see if this one can set up. Earnings are coming up in a couple of days at the time of filming this, so again it may kind of gap on earnings and then consolidate after that, but it's one on my radar because the relative strength is very impressive, and I think commodity stocks are strong. I think lithium stocks in particular are strong. This one here is Axon, ticker Axon. So what I like here is it's getting out very well on the earnings reaction, even though earnings were down minus 47%. Very positive reaction. So the market reaction to earnings is far more important than what the earnings actually said. And you have in the most recent quarter 3 higher quality growth funds increasing their position in this stock, and this is just really positive action. Now clearly short term extended needs time to consolidate, potentially build a flag type pattern here, so it just needs to consolidate, get nice and tight, boring, quiet, everyone loses interest in it, see the volume, loses interest in the stock, see the volume come down, and then potentially target something there. MRO, so another oil and gas type stock on my radar. It needs to kind of build out this kind of handle, but you can't. Again, oil and gas stocks are difficult. They are difficult to trade. If any of you have tried trading them, you'll know they're difficult to trade. They mean revert. They're much more choppy, but you're continuing to see a lot of strength here in the oil and gas stocks. I can't necessarily ignore it. Potential cup and handle pattern forming here. You'll see this with a lot of oil and gas stocks. You'll see a lot of kind of VCPs potentially forming as well. So yeah, just as a side note, here's one that's not on the list, but I'll show you anyway. This is YPF. I think this one's pretty interesting. Pulling back down to the 1021, 50 is there as well. If this can just tighten up a little bit in here for a low pivot, I think that looks interesting. But let's get back on topic. So next one here is going to be a biotech related stock, ticker MBIX. Just needs a little bit more time. The 10 EMA is now caught up, but short term extended. Can this one go sideways a little bit more? But strong stock. You got Fidelity in there establishing a position or initiating a position in Q3 of 2022. They tend to add in subsequent quarters. You had Tony Rowe Price. They've been increasing their position in the last 3 quarters. So yeah, I think this one's interesting. Biotech is certainly where I'm seeing some strength. LTHM back on the lithium theme. So it's a stock with triple digit earnings, triple digit sales coming through. You've got some high quality funds in there, building a big old base in here. Now it just needs to tighten up. So on a short term basis, extended, but if this can just consolidate around the top of this base, around $35, go sideways for a week or 2 in here, just at least let the 10 catch up, maybe the 21 in there as well. Looks very interesting. Solar stocks look strong. ALB not on this list, but ALB also looks very strong. APA similar in terms of the other oil and gas stocks, which I think was MRO I was talking to you about. Potential cup and handle type pattern forming here. Psychological level maybe a $50. Livermore point. Volume starting to dry up. Needs a little bit of time. Triple digit earnings coming through. Sales are high. Margins look pretty strong as well. Just needs a little bit more time to potentially build out a handle in there. PAR, this is another oil and gas related stock. Pretty strong move. up here. Now, can it kind of flag out around $24 or so? I think it needs a little bit more time, 10 EMA to just catch up. But if this can go sideways for maybe another week or so, get nice and tight in there, trigger bar on the 10 EMA, that potentially looks interesting. Last 2 quarters, earnings plus 999, then plus 829. So that looks interesting. PSTG, more of kind of a can slim type stop here. So a bit of VCP action starting to build. Generally speaking, these higher lows. Fidelity are in there, marginally decreased their position in the most recent quarter. Now this is more of a lower pivot forming around $31.50, $32. Potentially 10 EMA is there, but this just needs a couple of days or so. Just trigger bars get nice and tight, see the volume dry out. Earnings are coming out in 17 days. So at the time of filming, if it tightens up and breaks out before that, for me there's time to try and look to free roll that ahead of the earnings, given that they're kind of 17 days away. But it needs to get nice and tight and boring like it did in here. CNQ. And then I've got 2 more after CNQ. So this is another oil and gas stock, potential cup and handle with a low handle forming in the low 60s. So it just needs to go sideways a little bit more, tighten up, a couple of trigger bars, but looks interesting. As with many other oil and gas stocks, good earnings, good sales coming through, big estimates coming through, breakout year for the earnings per share. On semiconductor, I think this one is very interesting. This is related to kind of clean alternative energy, albeit it's a semiconductor stock, but it's one of the strongest semiconductor stocks. Now you do have 3 high quality growth funds. 2 of those have been increasing their position in the last 3 subsequent quarters. Now you have this potential big base building here. Now clearly on a short-term basis, the stock is volatile, the stock is extended, but it is very, very strong. So this is one I want to have on my radar, that it just needs to back and fill, tighten up, get just a nice tight boring price action, volume dries up, trigger bar sitting there on one or more key moving averages. But on semiconductor, looks very interesting. And then to finish off with a semiconductor stock, this is LSCC. So what I like here is positive reaction to the earnings coming through, good volume, and then good volume coming through for the final 2 candlesticks. You have got 1, 2, 3, 4 higher quality growth funds. 3 of those have increased their position in the most recent quarter, being Q3 of 2022. Nice strong closes here as well, gaps up, pushes up, and not gapping up on that final bar, but second to last bar does. And then the final bar, nice strong close. Now clearly short term it is extended, isn't it? This is what we're seeing a lot with in terms of these, I call them liquid leaders that I'm looking at. So you've got this potential phase 1 base that's building in here, but clearly price is running up and into the top of the base. So what does it need to do? It needs to tighten up, consolidate. It's very healthy if you start to see multiple tight candlesticks, nice sideways drift in here, and then when you look at this larger base and then you break down if it can shape up how it did there, what chart pattern do you see? Cup and handle, right? See that? Cup and handle. So it just needs to quieten down, 10 EMA catch up. Looks interesting though, good earnings, good sales, good margins coming through, ticks many of the cancelling boxes, good estimates coming through, fairly liquid with nearly a $9 billion market cap. So interesting 3 to 5 year look back in terms of the growth rate for the earnings share, 60%. So ticks many of the boxes, short-term extended, just needs to tighten up. So that's it guys, I'll wrap it up there. Hopefully you have enjoyed that video. Any stocks that you're looking at, then please do comment them down below. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. I'm going to post more videos like this on a regular basis for you. So thank you very much for the feedback, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.